Hello, welcome back to Colours and Flavours Podcast. My name is Oyinkan Dawodu. I'm your host, and this episode is a special one, part of the series Young and Married, where I get to speak with young wives who have been married for less than 5 years to discuss the early years of marriage and how they navigate certain areas of their marriage. And today's episode, I've got someone extra special from the FOCH woman world global, the one and only Dr. Mrs. Rubie. It's
Drum
such a
roll.
pleasure and my honor to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm honored, flattered, everything. Thank you so much for having me. Excited.
Thank you for agreeing to do this. It's so good to have you. So let's get into the conversation for today. Do you mind introducing yourself and your husband?
Of course.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. Thank you once again for listening to Colours and Flavours, one of my favorite podcasts. So I'm super excited to be hosted by, obviously, Oyinkan. And I'm really, really, really hopeful that it's going to be an exciting discussion, conversation. And yeah, I mean, I always like to put the caveats right at the start. That we're talking about it doesn't mean that we have arrived or we're there already, but, we're striving, encouraging each other, and just trusting God for the best. So anyways, to the question, introducing myself as well as my husband. My name is Rubie, as Oyinkan already said. My husband's name is Nelson, and we've been married for, we've literally just stepped into our 4th year, so 3 years plus. We actually were one of those couples that dated for a really long time. We dated for 5 years before we got married, and I think that was more circumstantial than intentional because I was still in school. I think I was just in 1st year when we met, and then we built our friendship from there before we finally got to a place where we decided, you know what, it's time for us to take the next step, and then we got married. My husband and I were lovers of God. We absolutely love God, and we believe in the leading and the direction of the Holy Spirit, and that is really what anchors our marriage and what leads us, and that is, we live by what the Bible describes and defines marriage as. We strongly believe that you cannot redefine something outside of what the originator has defined it as. So the reason why we have adopted the Bible and God as our manual is because He's the one who instituted what marriage is. So why are we going to go and look for another definition somewhere? So really, that's Ruby and Nelson. We love the Lord. Yeah, well, I think we're both nerds, although I'm a lot better than my husband. My husband is complete.
Really?
Oh my day. It's crazy. We love to read. We love new knowledge. We love exposing ourselves to new knowledge. And yeah, when we're free, we love to travel as well. So that is Ruby and Nelson in a nutshell.
Amazing. Well, it's very lovely to meet Ruby and Nelson again. So just to prefix like what you do you want to share that?
Yeah, sure. I don't mind. So I'm a lecturer. I'm a software engineering lecturer. I got a background in software engineering and educational technology. So at the moment, I lecture both technical, research, and business courses. And my husband is a medical doctor. He focused on psychiatry, or he specializes in psychiatry. And outside of that, he loves wine and winery, anything about wines and wineries.
Okay.
I mean, he's not really a football fan, but every now and again he watches. We support Chelsea, and no, I don't support Chelsea because I supported Chelsea long before we met because my favorite uncle supported Chelsea. And I personally, outside of work, I steward FOCH Woman, both our blog, our podcast, and everything FOCH Woman. But yeah, pretty much that's us. That's what we do.
Lovely. Thank you. I wanted to say it so that I can say yes. She's Dr. Rubie, married to Dr. Nelson. 2 doctors. I had to just say, that's why I asked you, like, please share. It's not easy. It's not easy. So 2 doctors in a marriage, 1 academic doctor, 1 medical doctor. Imagine. Match made in heaven. Well, thank you. It's lovely to meet you both.
Thank you.
All right. So how long? Okay, you said you've been married for 3 years, right? So you're just starting your 4th year in marriage. How did you guys meet?
So honestly, it was divine orchestration. And I don't know how many couples say this, guys. I always try not to make it sound Christianese, but there was just no way that we would have met without some sort of divine intervention. So what had happened was I actually was in England while he was still in Nigeria. I mean, we had
Okay.
no idea about each other because he wasn't even in Abuja. I lived in Abuja. He was still in Jos, where he had completed his medical school. So what had happened was I usually used to go home when I was in university. I was going home twice a year. I would go home summer and Christmas. So what had
Okay.
happened, like the summer of my first year, I went home and randomly, I went to visit my secondary school. So secondary school I graduated from. And when I went to visit the secondary school, I ran into a software engineer. Remember, I studied software engineering for my undergrad. So I ran into a software engineer that
Okay.
was currently working on a project for the school, right? He was trying to incorporate online jam and WIEC sort of questions for the students. And we just got talking. So when the principal introduced me that, oh, I'm actually studying software engineering, he took a keen interest in me, just asked me what I did and all that. I just said to him I was my first year of, university. And he was like, that's really amazing. That software engineering is so vast. And truly it is. See, look how, tech has boomed and everything. So
Yeah.
he said to me, you know what? Anytime that you're in Nigeria and you want like sort of an internship or anything, it will be amazing to have you come to my company and work. It was so random, honestly. That was what he said to me. And yeah, I took his card, but I was quite reluctant because I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I mean, I was schooling in England. So I knew that if I wanted to do an internship, I would definitely find an internship like in England
Yeah.
rather than go all the way to Nigeria for an internship because I was trying to set the trajectory of my, my career prospects. So I took it and I came back and I would never forget. I was actually in one of my network fundamentals course when I came back, obviously after summer, I think I'd stepped into second year. I was in my network fundamentals class. I know the name of the course. And in the network fundamentals, I just heard in my spirit, go to Nigeria.
Okay.
Go to Nigeria next summer. No, it was the following summer. I was like, you're going to Nigeria the following summer. Yeah, that's what I heard. I think it was around December or January when I heard this in my spirit. And it was such an interesting thing because I mean, I thank God because at that point I had really already developed my work with God and I wasn't doubting that it was God speaking to me because I had asked him, I said, God, I need to confirm this. And how I asked him, I said, please, I'm going to ask my parents, if they say yes, then I know it's you. They say no.
Yeah.
So that was the test that I put to God. And believe it or not, as soon as I told my mom, she was like, yeah, that why not? That if I want to come home, that's okay. So rather than come home and just chill, I just remember that he had told me that I should come do an internship. So I thought I would make the
Yeah.
most of the month or two that I was going to be in Nigeria for. So as soon as my parents agreed, I sent him an email. I will never forget. It wasn't an email, it was a message on LinkedIn. I found him on LinkedIn. I left a message. I said, hi, I'm going to be in Nigeria this summer, the coming summer, and I would really love to come intern with your company. And that was when I got to know that the company was in Jos. And at this point,
Okay.
I started to panic a bit because I was so concerned that my parents were not going to let me go to Jos. Just because there's
Yeah.
security issues. We don't live in Jos, we live in Abuja. But anyways, to cut the long story short, again, I told them and they said yes. They were fine with it. I was like, what's happening here?
Okay.
It's okay, let's go. So I went to do my internship in this guy's company, but this is where it got really wild. The night before I was meant to start my internship, he called me that night and he says to me, he's so sorry. However, he's been invited to pitch somewhere in Europe. So he was traveling abroad literally the following morning. So that means
Okay.
that he was not going to be around to like just sort of show me around and steward me in his
Yeah.
company. So he said he's going to hand me over to another friend of his that has a technology firm. So what he was saying was,
Okay.
rather than come do it in my company, I have another friend who has another tech company, software engineering company that I think he will benefit more from. Because I think what he just wanted me to do was shadow him. And seeing he wasn't going to be
Okay. It
around,
wasn't
he
going to
now
be
gave
around.
me
Yeah.
someone who was like on a similar level to him doing what he was doing. He said, go shadow this person. Like I said, this was a night before. And I'm not gonna lie to you, I didn't tell my parents because I knew my mom was going to panic a bit. Like that sounds a bit shady. I just prayed about it. I said,
Yeah.
Lord, you know what? I'm here already because I was already in Jaws. I was staying with my auntie. My cousins were there, so I just told them. I said, "You guys change of location. This is not where it is. This is where it is now." And that papa we just sorted it out within ourselves. So the following day, I reported in the new location. By the way, not the
Yeah.
location I meant to obviously be at.
Yeah.
And from like the first day, I mean, Nelson they were working on a project for him. So he was trying to build a medical technical solution, like it was like one of the solutions that is in the middle of tech and medicine. So they were working
Medicine.
on this software
Okay.
engineer working on it for him in that company. So he used to come into the office around maybe like 3 times a week. And we used to see each
Okay.
other, but we never spoke because it's quite a big office. So I think the most thing you do is because there's a big opening area. So when someone walks in, you see who walks in, but then there are different offices. So he would come in, and every now and again, I just noticed every time he comes, the people will hail him, doctor, doctor, they will not talk, talk, talk. So the final week of my departure, when I was leaving for my internship, what had
Okay.
happened was I was talking to someone, right? I was talking to someone, and it was like a day before I was leaving, actually. And again, he walked in. And as soon as he walked in, the person I was talking to now started hailing. He was like, doctor, welcome. How are you? And everything. So mindlessly, I just asked him, I said, are you really a doctor? Is that just your nickname? Like, because I really didn't understand why everybody was always hailing
Yeah.
me doctor anytime he came in. And then he was like, what do I think? We threw me off. So I was like, who is this? I was like, just answer the simple question and stuff. But yeah, that
Yeah.
was just all he said. And I mean, I didn't mind. I just fashed it. I didn't even probe further. And that was it. So the next day was my final day there. And I just remembered after I'd finished, I just sat down. I was just inhaling everything. And I was just talking to God, like, okay, God, I've had a fantastic internship. I've learned a few things, but is this what I came back to Nigeria for? That's literally what I was saying to God. And in my thoughts there, I just heard movements behind me, and I just turned in the office. I just saw Nelson sitting behind me. He now said he came to apologize for what he said, what he did yesterday. He realized that it was a bit embarrassing. I was like, oh, so you know,
Really?
and he apologized. He apologized anyways. And that was it. I remember that day we just had a long conversation. We spoke for like the next 2 hours, just asking about ourselves. What do you do?
Okay.
What you school? And I remember I totally lost track of time. My auntie had given me a curfew for, I think it was 6. And then I just looked at my time. It was like 6:40. And I screamed. I said, please, I have to go. And he said to me,
Wow.
thank you for give me your number. He thought he was asleep.
Okay.
But anyways, I didn't tell him it was my last day. I just gave him my number.
I was
And that
about
was,
to ask, like, did you know that was the last day
no,
you were
he didn't
coming
know.
in?
He didn't know. And I left. It just that the following day he just texted me like he hasn't seen me in the office today. And I was like, oh yeah, yesterday was my last day. And he was like, no way. I was like, yes, way. And then I was telling him I'm
Yeah.
back to England the following week. So frankly speaking, my mind didn't even go to anything continuing beyond that point. Because I mean I was
Yeah.
going back to England. I mean, he was in Jaws. But then God knows how he does these things. But that was our initial first ever meeting and introduction. Not
Yeah.
the typical love at first sight, but it's what it is. But yeah, I hope that answers you.
Yeah, that's nice. Okay, yeah, it does sound like divine orchestration because I mean,
Yeah,
what are
no,
the
no, no.
odds?
And I think when the divine organization is crazy was that change of venue. That how the person was like,
Yeah,
talk of my
like
office. If I had gone to the original office that I asked to go to, I wouldn't have met Nelson at
you
all.
wouldn't
There
have
was
met
no way.
him.
So
Yeah,
the fact that he had to travel and then he told me to go shadow his friend was the only way we would have met. If not, there's no other way I think that we would have crossed paths. But yeah, that's me thinking in my
amazing. Yeah. All right. So from there, you guys got talking, and fast forward, you're in love, and now you're married.
mind. Crazy.
Amazing. So you got married relatively young, I would say, right?
I mean,
Thinking
for
some
our
people.
for our generation and for the way we would define it, I'd say for our generation, yes. I mean, my mom got married at 21, so I don't really consider myself to have gotten.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, my mom got married at 21. I got married at 24. So if I wanted to say I got married younger, I should have been younger than my mom, right?
Younger.
So it depends.
24 is still young for our own like generation, I
Yeah,
think.
that's what I said. I think for our
Yeah.
generation, we can definitely say it was young.
It was young. So far now, it's 3 years into marriage. Do you have any regrets about getting married at a young age?
Frankly speaking, oh, I
Okay.
don't have any regrets about getting married young. It was a surprise to me, frankly. I'm not going to lie to you because
Okay.
anyone who knows me knows that I've always been very ambitious. Even in university, like my friends knew me and stuff. So even when they heard I was getting married, I know a lot of people were surprised. Being ambitious meant that I had so many big career goals for myself.
Yeah.
Honestly, marriage was not at the forefront of my mind. I'm not going to lie. That was why it was a surprise to me that I got married as early as I did. So when it finally came, I mean, at this point, like I said, we dated for 5 whole years. 5 years is quite a long time to build friendship. I didn't
Yeah.
really think too much about it when we were stepping to the next phase, which was marriage, because I sort of felt like I had gotten a good understanding of this person. This person also had gotten to understand me. And I started to realize that it was just also God's way of helping me to curb my ambition, because it was very selfish. It was only later I started to realize that it was quite selfish, and I didn't have to put one thing before the other. You know what? I'm
Yeah.
still as ambitious as I used to be. I'm still going after all of the things that the Lord has placed on my heart. But I've got a partner to do it with. And what's better than
Yeah.
doing something one? Do it with two. That's Bible says one would chase 1,000, two 10,000. And since I've
Yeah.
been married, I've seen that in action. I've seen Nelson and I, do much more than I know that I would have done alone.
Alone.
So in that regard, no, despite being very young, honestly,
Okay.
don't have any regrets.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you. And yeah, I think I can attest to it. Like pre-marriage, you were doing big things. And
Yeah.
in marriage, you're still doing big things. And like you said, it's great to have a partner. Okay, that's good. So no regrets. All right. So far since you've been married, like what would you say is one good thing that you've experienced in marriage? Something you like about being married? Because I know you love being married. So what's one thing? I'm sure there are many. But what's one? Just tell us one. Tell us one.
Mm. Oh gosh, which is my biggest and my favorite. It's just how we get to, and obviously I'm not even trying to like speak Christianese with this, but I mean I've always been fascinated with how God likens marriage to Himself and the church. And
Yeah.
so for Nelson and I, it's how every day we have the opportunity to sort of cosplay that. Let's cosplay. I'm the church, you're Christ. How would Christ react, behave? How would the church react, behave? So I think it's that opportunity to recreate sort of heaven in our home. And that stream has slipped into everything, the companionship, the fun and games, the friends we keep. It sort of sips into everything, because you just realize that there's a model that you're trying to be like.
Yeah.
And as you walk towards that model, you just find yourself changing as well. So really, if I had to say, my favorite part of marriage is just the awareness that I'm cosplaying Christ and His church. I just think it's a privilege, and that excites me. It excites me like every day, and it also helps to keep me in check, because when I start acting out or finding myself thinking or doing things that I shouldn't be thinking or doing, and then realize that, wait, oh, don't forget that there's a model. Is this what the
Yeah.
model would think or do? And that sort of helps to realign me. So I would say that it's my favorite part, that we get to cosplay Christ and the church in our home every day.
Jesus girl and Jesus boy, you guys. Got it.
Period.
All right, that's good. So on the other side, is there anything that's been a shocking reality in marriage? Maybe something you didn't really anticipate, and like, wow, this is part of being married as well.
That's a really good question. And I'll be very honest. So I grew up as the third girl, almost last born. I would have a younger brother, although people think I'm the last one. But anyways, being in that position as a family, seeing you have like a lot of older, well, not a lot, I have two older sisters. I
Yeah.
was not very, I didn't have the opportunity to sacrifice. That's the truth.
Okay.
The fact that the position I was born in, there were always two people that would have to sacrifice before me. So it never got to my turn. And I genuinely
Mm,
think that made me a selfish person. Right. Because if you don't have opportunity to like do something or learn something, it just doesn't, it's not natural to you. So getting
yeah.
married and then realizing that, yeah, in your marriage, you're not the last born. Thankfully, Nelson and I are both third borns. Although he's the first
Okay.
one, dynamics is a bit different.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's sort of different in that regard, but by position, we are both third bonds. And so I think for me, the biggest realization for me was realizing how selfish I was. Honestly, because I thought I was one of the most selfless people I know. I thought that the Lord had
Yeah.
booked me, and I would go all out for someone else. But then coming in and having to live day to day with another person, and realize that every day I have to put this person before myself. I saw my selfishness in 3D, more like,
Wow.
and that was a real eye opener for me. And it just, I mean, it was a good thing, because it just took me back to the foot of Jesus. Like, God, if you don't help me, like, yeah, this is not my family dynamics where I have two other siblings
Yeah.
that will sacrifice. I had to step up. I had to learn what sacrifice is. I had to learn what
Yeah.
servitude was. I had to learn a lot of things, and it's been a journey. It's been a journey. But yeah, if I had to say one realization that was bad, but I think was good in the long run, was just coming
Yeah.
into the awareness of just how selfish I was innately.
Mm. All right. Thank you. Thanks for that honesty, actually, because many of us don't get to realize it. But
No,
yeah,
we don't
I
know.
like
Yeah,
that.
everybody
Yeah,
thinks they're
because they're like, "Oh, no, I'm sure I'm selfless." You won't say I'm selfish, but until the situation
there.
presents itself.
And can I just add something there? I just want to say as well that just generally putting out there, we
Yeah.
don't not realize how much our family dynamics actually impacts us, even when we get to marriage. Like I
Yeah.
said, I was able to trace. I was in my communication with God and working with Him that I realized that, you know what, this was the root cause. Like, okay, yes, human beings are naturally selfish, but it was because I grew up not even having the opportunity to be a selfless or a sacrificial person because I
Yeah.
was never considered to sacrifice or be selfish because I had older siblings. Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
even be that that is the case with someone listening to this, where maybe you're the last born or you've got several older siblings, and so you're never really in that position where you have to be selfless or sacrifice. Remember that marriage is a different ball game entirely.
Yeah.
There's no last born and first born in marriage. Everyone is coming, and you're putting yourself on the altar for the other person, and that demands
Yeah.
high levels of selflessness and sacrifice. So
Yes.
start working on it.
Yes, very well said. Marriage is very sacrificial. I mean, it's for
No,
a good cause, but it pains when you're learning it. But
100.
anyway, yeah. Thank you for that. So what you said about, how your upbringing actually impacts your
Mhm.
view of marriage. So let's actually go back to before you got married. How did the marriages that you saw while growing up impact your view of marriage, whether from your parents or just the marriages around you?
That's a very beautiful question. Frankly speaking, again, I'm not going to like, because I married early. My view was always on career women. That's the truth, right?
Okay.
I don't think I formed too much an opinion around marriage, honestly. The closest marriage that I could see was my own parents' marriage. And it
Yeah.
wasn't perfect, but they had a working relationship, right?
Okay.
They had a working relationship. I think the only thing that made me concerned a bit was on my mom's side, I did notice a few things with some of her siblings' marriages, which I definitely wanted to didn't want for myself, right? I think what it
Okay.
was, I didn't realize the good things I wanted. I just knew the bad things I didn't want. And
You
it's
didn't.
another way of noting good and bad. You get just like,
Yeah.
okay, I don't really know what I want, but I know I don't want this
Got
sort of.
you exactly.
So I would say that, I mean, thinking about it now, I don't think I formed too much of an idea or an opinion very young. I
Okay.
think it was much later when I was alone, when I had moved away from my home and I was away for obviously for university. I had moved from and I left very early. I think I left when I was 16. I just turned 16 when I left home. And that was the point where I feel like God started to really teach me. And I was in a really small church community. There were some young
Okay.
couples there. That was when my eyes started to really open and I started to see marriages and all of that. But prior to all this, because God found me really early at an early age, for me, the model had always been God and the church. So regardless of what I saw,
Yeah.
I just knew that, I know marriage is a good thing because a good God had made it. And I expect
Okay.
that whenever God does lead me into this, it also would be good.
Okay.
And so I didn't, and it's something I say to the glory of God. I didn't come in with any trauma or fear of, oh, I don't want this to be my case because me, in my mind, I was like, everybody's case is everybody's case. We get to curate what we want. This is what the Bible has said.
Yeah.
This is what it should be. And if we make that our model and we work towards it, I truly believe that God is going to help us. And that was really what it was for me personally.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. So I know you did say like there were marriages you saw around you that you noted that, oh, I don't
I
want
don't
this in my marriage. Was there anything
want
particular that you
to.
could share?
Yeah. So, like I said, as someone who really had big dreams and plans for my life, I noted like 2, 3 examples of women who had gotten married and they stopped work, whether voluntarily or their husband said, I don't want you. going to work,
Mm-hmm.
right? So yeah, that there was nothing to them apart from their marriages. And with all due respect to obviously stay-at-home moms, because I really truly believe that every woman, God has a plan and a purpose for your life. The ambition I have in my heart, and that woman might not have it because God has not God's plan for her. But then
Yeah.
because of the plan that God had revealed to me for my life and what I wanted, whenever I saw situations like that, I was a bit like, okay, I don't really think that this really would align with what the Lord would want me to do and for my future as well. So that was one thing. The second thing was communication. I saw couples who didn't really communicate. They were quite, when they were together, it was either talking about the kids or money or just
Mm.
something, never just gisting, never just having a conversation. And I just felt like this should be your friend. It's a for life thing. Do you get? So as young as I was, I remember actually just thinking about it now. There's one of my cousins, her parents were stellar examples for me, especially with the communication bit. I remember anytime I saw her and her husband, I'll just be like, this is so beautiful. And it's stuck, I think it's planted a seed in my heart. And that's what I came into marriage with as well. Like I want to be able to communicate. This is supposed to be my friend. Right. Yes, you're my husband, but you're my friend. That was how we
Yeah.
started. And I want to preserve that even through all of the phases that we would go through. And with friendship, there's always communication, there's always banter, just good vibes. So I think those two things are what I would note. Homes where I just saw that the husbands became dictators. You know what, stay home, don't work. But then sometimes the wives wanted to, but the husband said no. And secondly, homes where I
Mm.
just saw that communication was lacking, at least the friendship element of the marriage was lacking. It was more just like
Yeah.
responsibility, duty, but no substance.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Thank you for that. And then, by the way, if you're enjoying this conversation, please do well to leave a comment, share your thoughts, and subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so already. Thank you so much. All right. So back to you, Ruby. I love that you mentioned how, having that friendship with your husband was something that you really wanted.
Yeah,
And I can attest to it, right? I know that you guys love each other's company. So
100.
you talk so fondly about him. They're like, is this precious gift to you? Like, if anybody's following you on Instagram and they are not in love, you will block me. Let me tell you that. Because or you will mute her because haha. No, she really loves her husband. They love each other so well. And that's amazing, right? So is
Yeah.
this something that you intentionally nurture, like just to nurture that love for him? Or is just that he's an amazing husband and so you just want to share?
Yeah. So I mean that's really interesting question. I can't just be honest with you. It's never intentional. I don't put efforts to like appreciating my husband or praising him or anything. So it's
Okay.
completely natural. And it's something that I think I've always had. Like when something is when I'm happy about something or something excites me, I mean I just talk about it, I share about it. And I think that's really why there's a lot of like love content on my Instagram. But anyways,
Okay.
I definitely would say that it's both a nature and nurture thing for Nelson and I, with the way that we
Okay.
communicate, the friendship that we've built. Nature being that throughout our courtship, we had this friendship, we built this friendship. And that's why I personally think that thriving relationships are always best started with some sort of friendship. I get people that just jump into the relationship, and I've seen marriages that have worked like that. So there's no straight line to say that this is the one way it would work. But I think for best outcomes, always starting with friendship sort of goes a long way. And that was what had happened in Nelson and I's case, right? The fact that we had 5 years to get to know each other. And with these 5 years, I have to say, we weren't careful. You know, when people are in a relationship where you're trying to hide your bad parts and expose only your good
Mm.
parts, we were just ourselves. And I think that's something that comes with friendship when there's a lot of vulnerability, when there's a lot of openness. And so when we stepped into marriage as well, that foundation was a very, very good foundation for us to stand because it was something that we were already used to. But let's be honest, marriage comes with its own dynamics, it comes with its own responsibilities. I remember that we had done long distance for 5 years, we actually hadn't been in the same space. So coming
Mm.
into all of these new dynamics, that was then where the nurture came in. That's why I said it's a bit of nature and nurture. So it's, yes, this is how we started off and this is what we did. But then Now, the nurture part this is the intentionality part that we had to be cautious of, where we're like, you know what? Let's have a conversation. Let's talk about something. He comes back from work. He's tired. I'm tired as well because we both work. And sometimes you're both tired. You just want to rest. But then even
Yeah.
something as so as how was your day? What was the highlight of your day? You don't know. That would just spark a conversation and lead to several other conversations. Something we do also that really helps us with our conversation and communication is we go out a lot, a whole lot. Like we travel, we go to places, and every single time we visit somewhere, what you don't realize is that when you leave your comfort zone and go to a place, you're exposing yourself to new knowledge, new things. And so when we come back, there's so much to talk about. It's like, oh my God, did you see the way that girl was doing this? Or did you hear what
Yeah.
that man said about this? That's where the nurture part comes in, that we realize that in order for us to keep our communication up, there's certain sort of things that we have to do, and we intentionally try to do that, which includes, like I said, spending a lot of time together outside of our home, but also
Okay.
within the home. And I have to add this caveat. My husband is very introverted, right? So I know that there are introverted husbands that generally don't like to talk.
Mm.
And I'm extroverted, although in the last few years, I noticed that we started exchanging personalities. I don't know what's going on,
Okay.
but yeah, I don't know. I started talking more than me, and I'm like, what's going on here? But anyways, in that case, I also learned to respect his boundaries as well. In as much as I like to talk, I read
Okay.
his mood, and sometimes, yes, I'm talking to him, and I just realize he's not really engaging, and I just feel like, you know what, we'll revisit this another time. What I don't do is now antagonize him or make him or like be angry because you're not engaging me, you're not talking to me, because I realize this is his person naturally, and
Yeah.
sometimes introverted people just want to be introverted. So I just learned to respect that. So pretty much, I would say it's nature and nurture that's got us to this point, and all glory to Jah.
Praise God. That's good. I love that. And I was talking about like your love for God, because yeah, you both love the Lord, right? As a single lady, you were already building a vibrant walk with God,
Yeah.
and you still cultivate that even as a married woman. But then
Mhm.
how do you nurture that spiritual intimacy with your husband so that you are both growing together in your relationship with God rather than just individually?
That's a very, very good and interesting question, and one that I think that we are still navigating even till now, almost 4 years into marriage, and for several reasons. So the first thing is we had agreed values and principles before we walked into marriage. We were both Christians. We came from Christian homes, and we decided we want a Christian home. We want to raise a Christian family. So at the
Yeah.
foundation, there was that mutuality. There was that understanding. Now, guys, foundation is one thing. Practicality is another thing. Now, my husband came from a Catholic background. Even though he was
Okay.
Pentecostal, he became Pentecostal before we got married, but his
Okay.
family was Catholic. And if you know anything about Catholicism, Pentecostal, we have some differences that are quite
Yeah.
pronounced. Things around speaking in tongues, things around praise and worship. Till today, my husband, there's only so much movement you can see him doing in church. Like he would worship God, but you know how Pentecostals go all out. Like we go all out. Yeah, that's just not
Yeah.
that's not his person. So initially, I felt like I had to make him like me. Like he had to be like me. He had to love God like me. He has to do it all like me. And the one thing I love about my husband, unfortunately, he's not that person as well. So he never tried to force me into Catholicism or to be quiet
Yeah.
or calm like him. But that the Holy Spirit started to minister to me. My work with God is not the model. I'm not the blueprints, right? In as much as, yes, I encourage everyone to love the Lord and to serve the Lord, I am not the blueprint. Jesus is. And so what that
Yeah.
helped me do was that to recognize and see his way he built his own work with God, the way he related, with the Holy Spirit. And that really tremendously helped me because I stopped fighting, trying to make him do things the way Pentecostals do things. And I just started to let him love God the way that he's always done, right?
Okay.
And what that practically looked like was, you know what? In the morning, let's have our morning devotion together. Every Saturday, we have a couples devotional together. So in the morning, it's just prayers. But then every
Okay.
Saturday, we have our own couples devotion together where we actually read from a devotional, we discuss, we share thoughts. I started something as well, which to be fair, we haven't been that consistent. We said we're going to start watching sermons every week, like one married sermon every week.
Okay.
Like I said, we haven't been that consistent, but at least it was an intention that we both expressed, let's do this. Right. So practically, that is what it's looked like, nurturing our spirituality together, despite the
Yeah.
different backgrounds that we've come from. But at the end, at the root of it, I think, like I said, always remember that you are not the template or the blueprint, and everyone doesn't have to do it like you.
Mm.
Recognize where everyone is with their work with God and allow them to find expression in that place, because God is still there. God is still working with them, doing what He will do. I think at the end of the day, as long as you see someone with that teachable spirit and
Yeah.
someone who fears God, just let the person fear God. That's so important. And for me, that was one of the big things for me. My husband's work with God is very unique, very, very unique. He has knowledge and information about so many things that I could only dream of. Also it's just understanding that, respecting it, and just allowing God to raise us together. I've
Together.
stopped, like I said, trying to force him into a certain character or a certain way, and he's never even been the one to force me into a certain character, a certain way. And it's worked for us. And prayer, I can't emphasize that enough. Prayer, I have noticed that anytime that there's downtime with our praying together, I just feel off. I just recognize
Mm.
that there's something off here, and I know that we have to pray together. And I'm very quick to just be like, "Yeah, babe," or he's be like, we need to, do this. We need to spend some time praying. We need to spend some time fasting, and that's helped us thus far.
Lovely. Thank you. Thank you. So in as much as you have your own personal devotion, you still put in those intentional structures to do
Important
things
together.
together. So pray together, fast
Yeah.
together,
Let's not forget
listen to
church.
teachings
Let's
together.
not forget church. Church is so
Yeah.
important. So
Yeah.
important.
Go to church together. Amazing. Amazing. And I love the part about you not trying to mold them into your own version of,
What you
spirituality
think?
or Christianity. Right. And I believe you've seen each other grow even over the last 3 years together.
Yes,
Amazing.
100. Because I'm just going to give this very quick example. Catholics don't really do tithing. If they've done is recently, they just believe in something called harvest. I grew up in
Okay.
a tithing home at Pentecost. I think we're quite big on tithing. And so when we initially got married, it was one of those things like, well, I'm going to tithe because I grew up tithing. And then he was like, well, I don't really understand that doctrine because this is not something I've grown up doing. And it
Mm.
took us some months to both understand, okay, what's harvest? Okay, what's tithing? And I just kept praying about it in my personal time. I had a conversation with his parents as well. And that was how I even understood that, it's not even about him. Because even his dad, he repeated the same thing that, I don't believe in tithing. You know what, this is what we do. We give to projects, we give to church, we give during harvest. And that did a lot for me mentally, because obviously it wasn't like he was trying to fight the doctrine. It was just, this was how he was raised. And so
Yeah.
having understood that gave me clarity and understanding. And I just started to pray about it. And one day randomly, he literally woke up by himself and said to me that he was going to start typing, and he started it by himself. And that's why I said prayer is
Amazing.
important, guys. Pray.
Prayer. Thank you. But you did mention he already was Pentecostal before you got married, but there were still some like doctrinal beliefs he held from childhood that you guys were just navigating in marriage. Okay. All right. Thank you for that. I didn't even know that he wasn't from a Pentecostal background. So so it's nice to get that context because I think it happens even quite common in
Yes.
our
Right
day
now.
from different church upbringing, so you can navigate together. But I think it's also important that in terms of the like foundational doctrines, you
Mm,
are aligned before marriage. Yeah,
important.
before marriage, because that would, because imagine that they're even both on the same doctrinal like position in terms of faith, and yet there's still
There's
differences.
still
How
difference.
much more it would have been if they were, you know, from different convictions and backgrounds. Yeah. Yeah, so that's good. Thank you so much for sharing that. So now back to you guys. So we've talked about like friendship, intimacy. I want to talk about financial intimacy in that sense, right? You both work, you both earn money. You said that you are an ambitious woman, and I know from like being your friend that it's not a money driven
Yeah.
ambition, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, money comes along with
More of
with
impact for me. More of impact.
yeah, it's an impact driven
Yeah.
ambition. But yeah, you do make money. Your
I
husband
agree.
makes money, right? So how have you guys built a system
Now,
around managing money as a couple?
Another very interesting question. Truth is, I'm not as financially literate as my husband
Okay.
for, again, background reasons. Background reasons. I only started to take my financial literacy, I think, sometime when I was in university. When I talk about financial literacy in terms of savings, investments, prior to that, thank God for provision with our parents. So you just spent money, not knowing where it came from or where it was going to come.
Mm,
But my husband is so financially literate. He knows so much about, how to handle money and all of that. And coming into marriage, I'm not going to lie, that was something I was so happy about. And that's one of the
okay.
strengths, some of the things that even drew me to him, because I was just like, I actually need this in my life. So I think it helped that I already had that view of him, that I know that this person is a financially responsible person. I can trust this person with our family finances. And this is just my case. In some families, the
Yeah.
woman is a financially literate one. So while I have been on my own journey of, getting as financially literate as he is, I trust him to make most of the financial decisions. And if you know my husband, he's very quiet. He's not too imposing. So look, I'm the one that, does it first. In my
Okay.
mind, it's on. So I think we've learned to it's just finding a system that works for us. So in our case, we don't have a joint account, but we have a joint budget. So every month we know what comes in
Okay.
of us. We don't have a joint account, like I said. We know what comes into both of us accounts, but we have a joint budget. So this person knows what this person is doing, this person knows what that person is doing. But generally speaking, if I had to get practical, we live off his salary and then we do savings and investments with mine. So that's
Okay.
our own system. Our own
Yeah.
system is, yep, separate accounts, one budget, live off one salary, save and invest off
If an
another.
investment.
So
Okay,
that's our
amazing.
own system.
Amazing. I love that. And then even the fact that he's the more financially literate
Mhm.
spouse,
Yeah,
you guys still do things together
of
with
course.
money. You
Of
talk
course.
and you carry each other along.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but I've frustrated him so many times, let's be honest. He's
He'll
like, this
teach you, don't worry, you will learn.
budget, like, oh, well, so I think it comes with time. It comes with time. Don't be too hard on yourselves. I mean, couples, you just always remember you're coming from two different backgrounds. You cannot unlearn 24 years in 1, 2 years. And that's why patience
Mm,
is so important in marriage. Right. And I really thank God for me, for Nelson, and how the Lord has really helped us in terms of growing, learning together and growing and being patient with each other, even when the other person slips up. So yeah, that really is.
amazing, amazing. Thank you. All right, so I think I've observed that you do have a pretty good relationship with your in-laws, right? For I guess it's right to say, yeah.
Working relationship, yeah? It's a working relationship.
Okay, okay. Would you say you guys are really, really close, or
I think the distance sort of limits us a bit, I'm not going to lie, but I'm
okay?
quite satisfied with it, especially with my husband's sisters and cousins.
Okay,
My mother and father-in-law are actually quite reserved people. So um
okay.
they're very introverted. But yeah, like we have a working relationship
It
where we
work.
speak, relate.
Okay,
I don't have any vendetta against. I'm not one of those people that how like on social media, like mother-in-law scares and stuff like that. I don't have that.
okay. So you have a decent relationship with them, yeah. I think the reason I even brought this up is because I know you both are from different cultures, like
Yes.
different tribes.
Yes.
Right. How have you navigated that while building a relationship with your in-laws? Has it had any implications or it's
Yeah.
just been fine?
Yes, it has. It definitely has. I think very, very acute example that I can give is, I mean, since I've known my husband, I call his sisters by their names. I never thought too much about it. I have an older sister that is like the same age with his older sister, and I call her by her name. So I
Okay.
never thought too much about it.
Yeah.
I was visiting my in-laws once, and they heard me call his older sister by her name. They were not having it. It's not something I picked up, but he never even told me about. He never corrected me. He let
Okay.
me, call her. And I
Call
don't think
her.
she minded. I really don't think she minded. But
But his
culturally,
parents were not having it.
yes, culturally, it's just not supposed to be according to them.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, in my culture, nobody could care less. Like we could care less. Call anybody what you
Yeah.
want. So, I think just one practical example I could give where I then had to, I started calling her. I just added something more respectful before her name, and I mean, it didn't remove anything from my body. Do you get? I just feel like sometimes, especially our generation, we like to fight culture, like, oh, why they try to make me this or make me that. But if you think about it, it's really not that deep. It didn't change me. It didn't change my relationship with my husband. If it made my in-laws feel more comfortable, I was more than happy to do that. So in
Okay.
terms of navigating culture, I think it also, like I said, I think one big thing is the fact that there's the distance because they're in Nigeria, we're here. So there's
Yeah.
only so much impact culturally they could have on us, if I want to be very honest. And my husband, he loves his culture. He oh my God, he's a proud Yoruba man, but there's some liberalism to it as well. Some of the cultures that genuinely don't make sense. He's not like pressed about it.
Okay.
But yeah, we just navigate as we go, like as we go, where issues arise, with caterers. But he's been so helpful. I think initially when we're dating, when I was going to see his parents for the first time, he had told me, "Yo, this is what they expect. This is what Yoruba people are like," and
Yeah.
stuff. And it was really helpful because, guys, culture is so important to some people and to others it's not. I
Yeah.
come from a very my culture is not very cultural, if that makes sense. And I was marrying into a culture that was very cultural. So it's something that I feel like I'm even still learning as I go. But I've not arrived, but we've made
Okay.
progress.
That's good. Thanks. And I love the fact that you're also willing to adjust, especially if it would help everybody, have a better relationship. So that's good. But now speaking about your own family, so you come from a close knit family, with your siblings, with your mom, and your dad. You guys are quite close. How did you, navigate that living and cleaving aspect of marriage? Do you feel like you've got a
Yeah,
hang of it now?
that's an interesting question. My husband actually once called us a cult. He was like, "Your family is a cult." And I
Really?
asked the person, I was like, what do you mean by that? And then, I mean, I understood what he
Yeah.
was saying because, yeah, I grew up in a very close-knit family with my siblings and my parents. And I'm not going to lie, like initially, because I speak to my mom every single day. I mean, that was before I got married, anyways. I
Okay.
spoke to her every single day. And after I got married, part of living and cleaving was me just seeing how I could reduce that, right? And so practically, that was some of the things that it looked like for me. Not always saying, "Well, my parents used to do it like this," or "This is how we did it in our
Mm,
house." Learning that, okay, I'm with someone else now. We get to curate and decide how we do it now, not how it was done before. So I
yeah.
think what it was for me was constantly questioning my decisions. Am I doing it because this was how we've always done it, or this was how my parents did it, or this is what Nelson and I are deciding to do together as a couple? I definitely think I'm still navigating it. Certain
Okay.
Remember I said 24 years of my life spent at home with my parents and siblings. There's no way you'd expect 24 years to suddenly just be overturned in 3 years that we've been married. Again, grace and patience as you move. And know the person before you marry them. Like my husband knew that I was from a really close knit family,
Yeah.
and he knew that if it was a case that he's married me and I was like, what's going on here? That would have been a problem. So
Yeah.
it's also important to know the dynamics of the family that you're getting married into. And if something
Yeah.
that you're comfortable from the onset, waka, just go.
Great, great. So I love that. So it's still something you're navigating, but at least you're intentional about it and you know that you have to do it. Yeah. All right. Thank you. I think last question, and then I'll let you share your general advice. And I'm asking because I know you to be an intelligent woman and find there might be some areas where, you may not feel like, oh, you're strong as maybe when it comes to financial literacy, where you're still learning, but you're a doctor. It's not easy to have a PhD.
For
Right?
me,
And you do make intelligent decisions, even pre-marriage and now in marriage. And now you are married to a husband who is also intelligent,
thank you.
right? How do you I don't know if it's the word submit, but how do you respect,
Hmm,
his leadership such
hmm.
that you're not trying to, you know, take
Overimpose.
take the lead on things and actually allow him lead the home, even though you're intelligent?
That's a very, very, very beautiful. And you know what? I just really wish my husband was here right now. Like, but anyways, I have to be very honest. It was an interesting learning journey because
Okay.
two things. First is my husband is introverted. I have to keep emphasizing that. Naturally, already, I would tend to be a louder voice because he just wouldn't even talk, right?
Mm.
And so I had to learn to step back and allow him do things how he wanted to do it.
How do you
It's important that you also realize certain things about yourself before you actually walk into marriage. One of it for me, I knew that I had to marry someone more intelligent than me. It was
mm,
like sometimes like I'll be with guys, I hear their talk and I'm just like, if I marry this, there'll be problem. There's going so it was conscious that I married someone more intelligent than me. And it's not something I'm ashamed to say. My husband is
mm,
my husband is the most intelligent person I know. And I mean across the board, whether public knowledge, like general knowledge, whether about the world, countries, Bible, he's a much more knowledgeable person than me. And the reason this was important to me was I found that I respected people who were knowledgeable. I respected intelligent people. And so I knew that to help myself, I needed to also be aware of this. And so even in the decision of who to marry, it was a factor. And so it
okay.
was really easy because, like I said, Nelson is the most intelligent person I know. And I say this with knowing very intelligent people. So I sort of trust him in that regard. It doesn't mean that I would always think he's right, because if you ask him, he will tell you that me, I always think I'm right as well. Because sometimes it's just ego, like going back and forth. And I
Yeah.
could be opinionated. So it's been a learning curve and a learning journey in terms of understanding how my husband, and one thing about my husband, I don't, you know how, like, I don't know, me, I can say things 10 times. You must shall hear me. My husband says things once. And that's it. He's just gonna say it once. If you hear him good, if you're not hearing, no problem. And the best thing about Nelson, I have to put it out there, is Nelson is never going to tell you I told you. But the fact that he didn't tell, he didn't say it is going to pain you. Like he's just going to be looking at you like, even though he said it, he warned you for hand, and then you decided to go and do something else. He's not going to say, "Didn't I tell you?" He's just going to watch
Yeah.
you, but the guilt inside is going to be killing you. So I learned that very early. I think I even blogged about it in the first year of our marriage, where I just realized, you know what? My husband doesn't repeat himself. If he says something once and I fight it, whether with my words or with my actions, he's not still going to do anything more. He's like, what I do it and something happens, he's just going to be looking at me like, "Oh, okay." Like, so it's, and this is again where the selfishness, sacrificial thing comes in, looking inwardly and allowing the Holy Spirit to work on me and realizing that the gifts that God has given me is for the betterment of our marriage and not to break it down. So in as
Yeah.
much as I know that I'm very knowledgeable about a lot of things, in as much as I know that the Lord has given me a voice and I can be very opinionated, I try to make sure that it is within reasonable parameters in my home, especially because of the person I'm married to, seeing that he's not even a fuzzy person. Like really, my husband, little things would annoy him. So it's just like understanding him and the way that he operates, the way that he speaks, and respecting it. So my husband is the very good definition of a quiet leader. He's not the loud dictator leader, very quiet leader, and I've had to learn to respect that rather than take it for granted. Because I think with my personality type, the natural thing to have done would be to take that for granted. Like you said, Oyinko, with the Christian home, we recognize the headship of the man, and the
Yeah.
submission of the church. And if we are trying to mirror that, then we must learn what we need to learn. And for me, that's the learning curve that I've been on. Um,
Amazing. Yeah, love it. Thank you. Thank you so much. This has been an enlightening conversation. Sometimes you see, good marriages online, but you don't really know behind the scenes. So
oh,
it's nice to
fuck.
get that context. Yeah. And to see that people actually put in work to make their marriage work. It's not just working on its own. Yeah. So thank you so much. So before we round off, is there anything else you'd like to tell a new wife or a young wife, even as she navigates the first years of our marriage? As per you are now a semi
So,
senior wife,
why not
Yeah.
dish advice? I think two things. the first thing I would say, I've been echoing it throughout this podcast. Patience and understanding is so important for marriage, particularly the early years.
Yeah.
Remember that you were a person before you met this person. You were strangers, then you decided you're going to do life together. The differences between you guys, whether with your backgrounds, your ideologies, your mindsets, it would come out, and that's okay. What matters is how you handle it, and that's where being gracious and patient comes in. So,
Yeah.
my first advice would be don't be too in a hurry to be a perfect couple. I don't know if there's such a thing as that. What you just need to do is to learn the other person, allow the other person learn you, and find what works for you as a couple. The foundation is Christ, which and the Bible. Have that foundation. But in terms of the expressions, how your home is run, how you do things, how you relate, it's up to you and your partner. So I would say by or through patience and grace, you can learn each other and find what works for you, your own system, your own rhythm, and that really
Yeah.
matters. The second thing I would like to say is a bad day is not a bad marriage. A bad day in a marriage is not a bad marriage. There are days where I honestly just feel out of it. I just want to be by myself. And honestly, sometimes my husband might think that I am angry about something and I'm not. I just want to be myself. And it could be the other way around. And then we just have a quiet day. Maybe the other person is thinking this person is angry or this person thinks that one is angry. But I've learned to be what I say to people is just be as quiet, be as calm and comfortable in the quietness as you are when things are up and running and you guys are good. Do you get?
Mm.
So even in times where my husband and I are not 100%, I've learned to be comfortable in that rather than fight it. And that happens in all relationships, even with your friendships. It's not every time that you guys are feeling like gang. Sometimes there might be off days, but off days do not mean an off life, neither do they mean an off marriage. As long as you're
Yeah.
intentional towards working towards building the best you, that's what matters. And finally, remember that the goal is not marriage, guys. The goal is not marriage in terms of we're not put on this earth to get married. The goal is the sanctification of our souls. When we stand before Jesus, it's going to be less about when did you marry, who did you marry. It's more about the person that you became through that process and the person that your partner became, because that it becomes your responsibility when you get married. So a good thing that I hold myself to always is how is my soul getting better through this entire season and process of marriage? How am I
Mm.
helping Nelson to be a better person? Keeping this perspective in mind always helps you to take the focus off trivial things and you'll keep looking at the bigger picture. And remember, the bigger picture, like I said, is that sanctification of. So marriage is a tool that the Lord uses to sanctify us further, to make us, ready for that union with Him. And that's why you
Yeah.
find that a lot of, ugly heads raised because yourself is fighting this union that is being built. And so it's a sanctification tool. And so make sure that your goal for marriage is beyond just the they call it ephemerals or the just the
Yeah, the
little things.
temporary
The
temporary
yeah.
things
Think
about it. Yeah.
think eternal with marriage because it's about eternity. It's not just about here and now. So that's what I have to say.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so, so much. Can you guys blush? It's intelligent.
Thank
Dr.
you so
Mrs.
much for
Ruby.
having me. I had such
Thank
a
you.
great time for conversing.
Thank you.
Thank you for all that you do with colors and flavors. We are better
Thank
for it.
you.
And praying
Thank
more
you.
grace for you and more strength and ideas to
Amen.
the betterment of the entire church. So thank you.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much. Thank you to Nelson as well for allowing you, giving you all these
Yeah.
sweet stories. Thank you as well for sharing so honestly, so vulnerably as well. And I'm sure that everyone who tunes in will learn something and be encouraged as well in building their own marriage according to
And
God's ways. So thank you again, Dr. Mrs. Ruby. Till next time, you guys should make sure you check out FOCH Woman podcast, the blog as well. They're doing amazing things, especially if you're a young woman. That's the place to be. All right. Thank you again. And I'll see you guys in the next episode. Please do well to like. It goes a long way. Subscribe. Leave a comment. Let me know what you thought about this episode. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank
thank
you. Bye.